Humor, haunts, and homicide.
Hey, bitch!
Welcome to Humor, Haunts, and Homicide. I'm your co-host, Renee Biggs.
And I'm your co-host, Josh Compton.
Hi.
How you doing, bitch?
I'm great.
Good. Welcome to Humor, Haunts, and Homicide for
Thank
episode
you.
2.
Thank you, episode 2.
Can you believe it?
I hope everybody liked it.
They did love it.
Well, that's why they're here.
That's right.
That's why they're back.
They're back to hear us talk about all things us and all things crime.
Unless it's just like the three of them are back.
And if so, thank you.
Thank you. We love
We
you.
appreciate your time and all of your support and your feedback to admin@humorhauntsandhomicide.com. So Renee, what are we doing over here in your little podcast area of our office?
Well, there is a football game on right now, and I don't really miss football games, so I am forcing Josh right now to watch a playoff football, and it doesn't hurt that they show Taylor Swift, who I might be a little bit obsessed with. So
Yes, and by a little bit, we mean a lot of bit.
yeah, I'm wearing my Karma is a Cat shirt and the friendship bracelets that I've made. I have a total of like 9 on me right now. It's okay.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, I make them a lot because I'm like 42 going on 13.
Now, when she says a lot, so let's explain this. But you know how you take your kids out for like trick-or-treating and then you have like a McDonald's-sized bucket, maybe even a little larger than that, like maybe like even like a movie theater-style popcorn bucket?
That has Taylor Swift on it?
Yes.
Perhaps?
Yes.
It's not full. It just has a lot in them.
A lot.
Okay, well,
A
whatever.
lot. And they're honestly, I mean, they're beautiful.
I've made you some.
You have. I've had, a Hocus Pocus themed one from you. I've had a Scarlet Witch one from you.
Also, why don't you discuss the shirt you're wearing?
Oh, yeah. Our Lord and Savior, Queen Beyonce Giselle Knowles Carter.
Yes, and I have made him several Beyonce bracelets as well.
We actually went to a concert to see our Queen in August.
That was like one of the greatest days of my life.
It was amazing.
I cried like 7 times.
If you've never seen Beyonce perform live, it's how do you describe it? I think it was like
it was like it was like a religious experience. Like I was soaring.
Very spiritual. You almost feel like anything that was an insecurity of yours when you go there, like everybody was wanting that same release.
Yeah, it was really like I felt very safe at the concert.
Very safe.
It was awesome.
One of my favorite parts wasn't the sweating, because that was immense.
Oh my God. Thank God for a fan. I would have died without
thank her for the fan. Yeah, that is right. Thank Beyonce for that fan. Which, by the way, I did get a heated fan, not from her concert, regrettably so, later on in life. A couple months later, I spent way too much for this fan.
Yeah, but that's okay because you brought it to the movie.
I did.
Remember what happened to my fan?
It fell apart. It was she was doing a little shimmy with her wrist, and she did not succeed in the action of flicking it because it just combusted into several pieces all at once.
Also, Justin Timberlake is coming out with new music. It's been 6 years. I am so excited. My boyfriend!
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate your love for him. However, I think your second husband is a piece of trash. That's just me. Wow. But
don't listen to him, Justin. I love you.
That's just me. And some people think my opinion is wrong, and that's okay. I forgive them for their wrong opinion.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, but we're here today to do a couple things other than give you some wit, some humor, and some lighthearted fun to the end of your week and starting your weekend as you listen to us on a Friday. We're here to give you some spooky shit.
Really quick though, knock knock.
Oh, who's there?
Interrupting cow.
Interrupting.
No.
Oh my God,
Okay,
that took me out. What do you call a herd of masturbating cattle?
I don't know. What do you...
Beef stroganoff. I just figured it, was relatable.
Oh, God, it's good. You're right.
Oh, shit.
Well...
Oh, we're so stupid.
But awesome.
That's really cool.
I think now we'll relieve you from that. And we'll go ahead and get right into our first story of the day.
Yes, listeners, we have a story. And for me, I really connect with hauntings. Love all things true crime, but I definitely feel a little connection to the history behind places that have a lingering aspect to them, an unfinished business. And I want to tell you a story about one if by land, two if by sea, a political haunting story that I kind of put together by me.
Okay.
And we're going to take a trip back in time today to 1767 for this story. It's a haunting story filled with an American history, political conflict, and murder. But before I dive into the haunting of this building, which I want to tell you is actually quite creepy, I want to give you a backstory about the late owner of this house turned restaurant. His name is Aaron Burr, and for you history buffs, you may know him.
Most people know about Aaron Burr.
I didn't.
At least the name.
I didn't.
Really?
Truthfully, before reading up on this, I had no idea.
Well, I'm a nerd, so.
I also was not great at history and didn't enjoy it in school. I just found it boring, but now that I'm doing this, I think it's completely interesting. Yeah. So 360 for me. Yay.
There you go.
But Aaron Burr was a prominent businessman, politician, lawyer, and founding father. Burr attended the prestigious Princeton University. He was an officer in the American Revolutionary War, and he co-founded the new I say this 5 times fast, Jeffersonian Democratic Republican Party.
Jeffersonian. You said Jeffersonian.
I did. That's what it is. I know that sounds weird, but it's Jeffersonian Democratic Republican Party. Okay. So
Aaron, you're right.
Aaron resided at 17 Barrow Street. The property is known today as the restaurant 1 if by land and 2 if by sea. Aaron built this property in 1767 along with his horse carriage. He lived there with his wife Theodosia Bartow Provost and his daughter Theodosia Jr.
Stop it.
I know. It's bad. I should have given you a warning, but I want to see your face.
Wait, the daughter is the junior after the mom?
Theodosia Jr. Okay, let's continue.
Okay.
His wife passed away shortly after the property was finished, which left Bird, of course, depressed and alone to raise their daughter. In the year 1800, Aaron and Alexander Hamilton ran for president against each other in the primary election. There was an electoral college tie between the two candidates, and after a vote, the House of Representatives decided to vote on Alexander Hamilton as the President of the United States. While Burr put on the front that he was supportive of the president, the truth is that the two men were really at odds from that moment on. In 1804, Aaron became increasingly filled with rage when he found out that Alexander Hamilton had published some slander about him in the press. And this was really about dropping him as a running mate, which he didn't know until he read the paper. So you can imagine
it's a little shady.
Thinking you're going to be the vice president again for a second term, and then all of a sudden seeing the paper that had quotes. And back then quotes were a huge thing, and they still are. But everything was related to quotes because that was the only media form that they had was the press, in that sense. And he also claimed that Burr was a dangerous man and was unfit for politics. So of course, feeling insulted and feeling this had cost him his governorship, it effectively ended his political career pretty much at that moment. When the president says these things about you, it doesn't really
that might be done.
Land well for you long term. Well, the two men and the surrounding audience that they had kind of around them arranged a duel outside of Weehawken. Man, the words in this story, I tell you. New Jersey on July 11th, 1804 to engage in the shoot-off. The location was also near the same place that Alexander's son was shot and killed in a similar duel 3 years prior. When the duel happened, Burr shot first. He hit Alexander in the abdomen. Hamilton returned fire and hit a branch above and behind Burr's head. It was a known fact at the time that it was prior to the duel that Alexander had told several people that he never actually intended on shooting Burr, and he did keep his word even though he was critically shot. Hamilton was rushed to Greenwich Village in New York City, where he had died the following day, July 12, 1804. So, Although dueling was illegal at the time of Hamilton's murder, Burr was never formally charged with any crime. Even though Burr remained innocent under the law, he was not innocent under the court of public opinion. The murder of Hamilton ruined Burr's political career for the rest of his life. After the scandal, much of Burr's property was taken from him and was sold, and then was transformed into an engine house for the fire station next door to 17 Barrow Street, where it was located. Burr eventually traveled west to American frontier, looking for a fresh start. In February 1807 in Alabama, Burr was arrested on Jefferson's orders and indicted for treason, despite a lack of firm evidence. It was alleged that Burr had plotted and schemed to attempt to create an independent country under his rule.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, that wouldn't be great.
No. No, I don't think that the government would look pretty lightly on that. While Burr was ultra, the fiasco is now known today as the Burr conspiracy theory. Burr's sour reputation spread like wildfire throughout the country, and the threat of additional charges from individual states forced him into exile into Europe. Burr returned to New York in 1812, where he resumed practicing law. Burr lived to be 80 and died September 14, 1836. The property at 17 Barrow Street has been many things throughout the course of history. In 1890, Greenwich was quickly transforming from the slums to an up-and-coming neighborhood. To aid in the town's expansion, the property was sold, and then the new owners had turned the property into a brothel and a saloon.
Scandal.
I know. The discreetness of the location made it the perfect place for New Yorkers to engage in some nocturnal drunken mischief. The building,
fun.
It is, for you and all those that like that kind of stuff. The building had some mysterious features such as hidden stone-lined tunnels that reached what used to be the shore of Hudson River. Rumor has it that the tunnel was used to transport illegal goods. It could have also served as an underground railroad for runaway slaves. Then, around 1910, the property became a silent movie house, a bar, a restaurant, then a bar again, and then in 1973, the building came under its current ownership, where it's currently residing as a restaurant. The name of the restaurant is inspired by the quote in Henry W. Longfellow's famous poem, Paul Revere's Ride. One if by land, two if by sea was a secret signal that they used to alert patriots about the route that the British troops chose to advance to Concord. The current owners of the restaurant today have done an amazing job keeping many of the original elements intact. This includes handmade horseshoes, antique bottles, and a hitching post. Other modern finishes include fireplaces, a wine cellar, and a piano that they added to increase the romantic feel and charm of the building. Today, the restaurant is known for its candlelit tables, romantic vibes, and a vibrant menu option or two. Many couples have even chose this place to conduct their engagement proposals.
Oh, how romantic. Hey, let's get engaged at the murder house.
And see what you come home with, you know? No big deal. Don't worry though, because even if you think you're dining alone for a single night out on the town, you're always in spooky company. Many staff and customers have mentioned strange incidences such as lights flickering, people physically being shoved by spirits,
Thanks.
earrings of women sitting at the bar repeatedly go missing and just gone. You know, nobody has any clue. They've even said that they don't even recognize, you know, the people that have had this happen to them.
I would be furious if I lost earrings. And not that I have expensive earrings, but I like my earrings. But could you imagine having like 1 carat diamond studs and then like you get back and it's gone?
Just gone.
Some ghost like just...
Yes, I do. I'll take your diamond ring. Where the fuck are my diamond earrings? Oh my god, I can't even imagine. I'd be furious. Pictures and paintings on the walls also are being known to vanish without any reason why. Also, the ghosts of Burr's daughter, Theodosia Jr., and Burr himself are among some of the spectral tenants. In her adult life, Theodosia did live in Charleston, South Carolina. Along with one of her journeys to go visit her father to New York City, her boat, the Patriot, mysteriously disappeared in the fog somewhere near Cape Hatteras.
Ooh, Cape Hatteras is my mom's favorite lighthouse. Shout out to Cher Bear.
Cher Bear, love you.
She loves lighthouses in general, but that's her favorite one. So
Okay,
yeah.
Good to know, good to know. Since the Cape was infested with wreckers, many do believe that she went missing due to the Patriot being stormed by pirates, perhaps the Bloody Babes or the Carolina Bankers.
Bloody Babes.
Bloody Babes.
That's a good band name.
It is a good band name. So anyone who needs a good band name, there's a little tip. It is said that Mr. Burr...
Give me credit. Sorry.
Give her the credit in the show notes. It is said that Mr. Burr himself likes to make his presence known from time to time. Aaron is said to visit his daughter in their old family home. Aaron's ghost is said to be angry, as reports of throwing and breaking plates often occur at this restaurant.
Calm down, bro.
I know. Take a breath, man. Burr and his daughter are not the only ghosts inhabiting this 200-year-old building. A woman dressed in all black often shows herself near the staircase, only to disappear in thin air. A paranormal investigator visited the property and confirmed the apparition that had been reported is actually a woman who had tripped over her dress and fallen down the staircase, breaking her neck and dying.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, sucks to be her. Sorry, lady. Other named ghosts are a dancer and a blacksmith. The dancer is said to haunt the restaurant's Constitution Room, while the blacksmith haunts the upper story of the building, where he used to live and was seen by a retired staff member years ago. One former employee is said to have resigned from their position there because they stated that the ghosts seemed to be pushing them down the stairs often, and apparently more than once or twice.
Wait, pushing them down the stairs?
Yeah, they had stated that they were going down the stairs because there was a basement there where you can go get your, I guess there's food and other products there for the restaurant.
That would happen one time before I never went down the
and they
stairs.
said that it was happening on multiple occasions. So, can you only imagine? Oh, why are you quitting? Actually, I'm kind of sick of the ghost trying to kill me. So, all right, understood. You're good.
I really don't want to be murdered by a ghost, so I'm going to go ahead and,
not do that. Well, guys, if you're in the market for a haunted eatery experience, be sure to leave your earrings at home and don't mind the neighborly ghost watching your every move. This is One If by Land and Two If by Sea.
Oh, awesome job.
Yeah.
Nice history lesson.
Thank you.
Yeah. And a little haunting. We love it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Nice historical, centennial experience.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. So, Renee, you've got a story for me.
I do. This story is the mysterious case of Chuck Morgan.
Chuck Morgan?
Yes.
Ooh, please tell me.
All right. I want you to imagine this. What if your husband leaves for work, as he normally does, but doesn't return home that night? Then, imagine him returning 3 days later under suspicious circumstances, unable to speak, goes missing a second time, 2 months later, and then is found dead. What would you do? Let's dive into the mysterious murder case of Chuck Morgan.
What would I do? Oh, man.
I mean...
Okay.
This story starts on March 22nd, 1977 in Tucson, Arizona. An escrow company owner by the name of Chuck Morgan leaves his home for work as usual. Except the unusual thing is that he doesn't return home from work that night. In fact, he didn't return home for 3 days. On March 25th, 1977, Chuck stumbled back home, waking Chuck's wife Ruth in the process. Ruth states that she woke up to a thud at the back door of their home around 2 a.m. She then opens the door to find Chuck. He was missing one shoe and had plastic handcuffs around one ankle and set around his hands. Next, Chuck points to his throat and doesn't say any words. "Can you talk? Can you write?" Ruth asks. Chuck shook his head yes, so Ruth went and grabbed a notepad and a pen. He wrote that his throat had been coated with a hallucinogenic drug that would either drive him irrevocably insane or destroy his nervous system and kill him. Ruth wanted to call a doctor and the police, but Chuck was adamant that those actions would be signing a death warrant for the entire family.
Now, I want to pause there for a minute. If your husband, if this really happens, right, do you just not call the cops or take him to the hospital?
I would basically tell him, I don't really care what you say.
Right.
I don't know. Your husband comes home and being like, I might die or become, no.
And then he was writing it on a hand script.
Yeah, and then you're just like, yeah, cool, okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, babe.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. In a week's time, Ruth had nursed Chuck back to health. His voice did eventually return, but before it did, Chuck had written, "They took my treasury identification." This was the first time that Ruth had heard of Chuck working for the government. He had told her that he had been working for them for 2 to 3 years, and that was it. What do you think, Josh? Do you think he was really in the Department of Treasury?
You know, so at that time, I don't know. There was a lot of shady things going on.
Yeah, but it's not like it was like the FBI or the CIA. I feel like, why would you, like, all of a sudden you just drop this bombshell on someone you're married to? Like, I have this secret job for the I don't know.
And then for not, to be married and then to not even have a single clue. I mean, that's got to be hard to be that good of a liar that long.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
What about the other suspicious events that led up to this point?
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
like the drugs in his throat that could kill him, but then he's just healed back to health in a week, and then like, oh, you're all better.
Right, and not really like having.
And how does she know how to nurse him back to health? How do you nurse someone back to health from a hallucinogenic drug that you've never heard?
You read my mind. I was just thinking the same thing.
Like,
crazy.
Something to note here is that in the 1970s, the mafia established Arizona as a massive pipeline for drugs and money laundering. So that could be
sounds right.
Treasury, It was estimated that roughly 500 racketeers had established crime businesses there. The reason this was so popular for organized crime at that time was because there was an Arizona state law that allowed anyone to buy land through blind numbered trust accounts. This essentially meant that the money couldn't be traced back to the original owners of the properties that were being sold. As an escrow agent, Chuck would have been the only person who knew the identity of the owners. So there's that.
That thickens that plot a little bit, huh?
It's also known that Chuck Morgan had completed real estate escrow work for at least one known mafia family. It's alleged that he was doing work for two crime groups, the Ned Warren and Joe Bonanno families. Rumor also has it that Chuck also helped purchase gold bullion and platinum. Bullion, actually, I think is how you say that. And platinum. Precious metal laundering was a more convenient way of laundering money back then.
Yeah, you can't really track it.
Journalist Don Devereaux investigated this case and had this to say about Chuck and his potential dealings. He was around the edges of a couple of very large organized crime groups in Arizona at that time. It is very easy to get in over your head, and I suspect that over the years, Mr. Morgan was in that kind of situation. He was doing perhaps upwards of $1 billion of escrow work in bullion and platinum. These were transactions that only existed on paper. He was a straight businessman that probably got a little too close to the flame.
Too hot to touch.
Up until this point, Chuck's wife, Ruth, knew almost nothing about Chuck's business dealings, it's just crazy.
I know. I mean, how do you just not know? Or ask, and then if they say no, do you just take that as an answer?
Yeah, like, cool, okay. That's a lot of trust.
Right.
Chuck also revealed to her that there was money laundering going on, but it was nothing that he was involved in. Ruth obviously had further questions when Chuck said that the less that his family knew, the better off they would all be. After the kidnapping, Chuck became increasingly paranoid. He started wearing a bulletproof vest and carried his gun whenever he would leave the house. He refused to let his daughters go outside alone and arranged himself to drive the girls to school every day. So homeboy got real paranoid.
Yeah, he did.
In May 1977, about 2 months after the first disappearance, Chuck disappeared for a second time. 9 days after the second disappearance, Ruth received a weird phone call. There was an unknown woman on the other end of the phone who said, "Ruthie?" And Ruth replied, "Yes." The woman says, "Chuck is all right. Ecclesiastes 12, 1 through 8. And then she hung up.
Ecclesiastes. I don't speak Bible fluently, so I'm not sure.
I am pretty fluent in the Bible,
Okay.
but I don't know that off the top of my head or anything.
Okay.
So, but anyway, the passage reads, "Men are afraid of a high place and of terrors on the road. Remember him before the silver cord is broken and the golden bowl is crushed. Then the dust will return to the earth as it was, and the spirit will return to God who gave it." So there's that. Around the time before Chuck's disappearance, it was known that he had recently testified in a secret criminal state investigation of criminal activity along the Arizona and Mexico borders. It was also reported that he was working undercover for the Treasury Department. So, I guess...
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Kind of. I mean, if you're an escrow agent, like you said, and if he's really the only one that would have knowledge of these crimes, and I'm a mafia person or in the mob, you know.
I'm not, like, that guy is very expendable, you know? Yeah. 2 days after that mysterious phone call, Chuck's body was discovered in the desert near his Mercury Cougar. He was wearing that bulletproof vest he started clinging to and had died from a single gunshot wound to the back of his head. He was shot with his own .357 Magnum.
It's kind of like saying, extra fuck you, I'm doing it with your own gun.
Yeah, because the back of the head, I mean, come on, bro. The Pima County Sheriff's Department said that before Chuck died, he had been hiding out at a local motel for more than a week. An acquaintance was interviewed and told the police that Chuck said he was trying to buy back a contract on his life from a hitman. 2 days after Chuck's death, a woman called the Pima County Sheriff's Department. She stated that Chuck had come to meet her at a local motel just before he died. The woman called herself Green Eyes and said she was the same person that called Chuck's wife with that mysterious Bible verse. Green Eyes said in that motel, Chuck had shown her a briefcase containing thousands of dollars in cash. He told her that the money was supposed to buy him out of a contract the mob had put out on his life. Now, the popular working theory is that the hitman who was hired to kill Chuck had given Chuck a warning about the hit. Chuck was then told to get a certain amount of money to call off the hit. Theory has it that Chuck provided the money and was shot and killed anyways. Investigative journalist Don Devereaux believed that Chuck had no idea what he was caught up in. Don said there was a great likeliness that Mr. Morgan was in fact doing something with and for the government. I think this was a guy who was extremely naive about a lot of things. I think somebody blew his cover and he got killed. After Chuck's death, Ruth was visited by two men claiming to be FBI agents. She said that the two men tore the house apart. Ruth said they opened and closed their identification very fast. They said they wanted to come in and look through the house. They never said what they were looking for, and to this day, I don't even know what they were looking for. Ruth was so upset and grief-stricken that she did not write the names of the men down or question their motives. No one really knows if those men were legit FBI agents or not. And I'm just going to interject right here that absolutely not. Like, men are going to come to your house saying they're FBI agents, and they're going to real quick, like, open and close. Now, I'm going to need to see that. I'm going to need to write your name down. I don't know if you're coming to my house unless you're, like, legitimately an FBI agent.
You know, and
then you're in, like, oh, I'm so upset that I just didn't question their motives. I don't know. Maybe people aren't us, but
I hear you. But let's put yourself in the mind frame of this woman, right? So, her husband, who had just gotten home from work, he had left for work, then didn't return for 3 days. Then he goes missing. Then he's, gone all of a sudden and shot and killed with his own gun. And then she has these people that, are probably big and scary if they're in that organization. And they're intimidating and they say they are who they are, then you don't want to mess with that because you're fragile, you're upset.
I don't know, maybe I'm just a bitch.
I get it. I would feel the same way in a realist sense, but in the victim sense, maybe she's a little more forgiving.
And I guess you never know how people are going to react when something traumatic happens. So all right, I'll give it to her.
Okay.
Don Devereaux contacted the FBI to get more information on the Morgan case. He said, when I made a Freedom of Information Act request to the FBI, they had never heard of Mr. Morgan, despite the fact that they had obviously opened the investigation, despite the fact that the FBI interviewed Mr. Morgan's attorney. They were all over this thing like a blanket for a while, but now they've never heard of the guy. He never existed. No card, no file, no nothing.
Ooh, where there's smoke, there's fire, honey.
Whew,
okay.
Also adding to the suspicion of this case, at the crime scene, police found a $2 bill with an encrypted writing on it in Chuck's wallet. If Chuck Morgan was doing undercover work for the government, Don Devereaux believes that Chuck was writing clues on that $2 bill that he was trying to pass to the FBI. Don said, I think the $2 bill provided the basis for some kind of code. What seemed to be missing, however, was the document that the $2 bill would unlock. If he was quietly providing aid to the U.S. government and monitoring the activities of one or more major organized crime families, then he wasn't the villain. He was the good guy, and they need to know that. The sheriff's department ruled Morgan's death a suicide, which...
Oh!
Okay.
Of course they did.
I mean,
How
yeah.
shady can we be?
But the medical examiner's office listed the shooting as an unsolved death. Morgan's wife, Ruth, told Unsolved Mysteries that her husband would never have killed himself. He loved his wife and 2 daughters, and he never would have left them alone forever on his own accord. Morgan's killer was never caught, and it is now a cold case that remains a mystery to this day. Now, I will say that, people do kill themselves, even if they do love their wives and daughters. I mean, that happens, but people don't really shoot themselves in the back of the head. It's not impossible.
It doesn't make sense, though. It's not plausible.
No, and not the whole rest of the story.
No.
So, I 100% think that's bullshit.
Right.
And, again, I'm obviously going with the medical examiner in this case. That is an unsolved death, and...
I'm curious about Green Eyes, because who do we think she is?
I don't know, just some, random, where does she tie into all this? I don't know.
Because, to me, it sounds like maybe she was a affair... and she was the mistress, and he divulged the information of what was going on to her because he had no one else to turn to.
Like his confidant?
Right.
Perhaps.
Or maybe she was part of it with him in the same organization, and she was there, and maybe she wasn't part of it, but maybe she had no choice but to be involved.
Maybe.
So she called the cops anonymously with the name of Green Eyes, giving her a clue of who she is, but doesn't want full accountability toward it.
Well, it is definitely a cold case, so we'll never know.
Yeah. The great thing
Or maybe we might actually know. There's a lot of cold cases get solved nowadays.
Yeah, part of why I love doing this and why I wanted to start this is maybe the hope one day that we can help drive some motion into some cold cases.
Yes, that would be my dream.
I don't necessarily want to be an investigator, but if I can help guide something in the right direction by theoretically talking about it, or just sharing theories, I think help bring motivation to something that maybe didn't have a lot of light in it.
Yeah. So
wow.
that
was a lot.
That's the story about the bizarre death of Charles Morgan.
Wow, good old Chucky. What was Chucky involved in? Wow, that was good. Good job.
Yeah.
High five. Air 5. My sources for today's segment on One If by Land, Two If by Sea is One If by Land's website, Aaron Burr's Personal Life's Wikipedia article, and nyghost.com One If by Land page.
And the Chuck Morgan segment sources are grunge.com, unsolved.com, truecrimezone.com, and morbidology.com. And the rest of the credits will be in today's show notes. Okay, guys, we're very excited that you stuck through episode 2.
Thank you so much.
Hopefully you'll be back for episode 3.
Of course they will.
But really quick, Josh, I have something to get off my chest.
Please do.
Mystery doesn't sleep.
And neither do we.
Bye, bitch! Humor, haunts, and homicide.